You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 145, Explosive Author Marketing with Jonny Andrews. This episode of the Wordslinger Podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. Thank you so much for tuning in to another week of Wordslinger shenanigans. I was interviewed on a podcast this past week, which thankfully was a little more reader oriented. I hardly ever get to go on things that are aimed at readers, which is too bad actually, because I think we should actually have a lot more stuff that is aimed at author discoverability. And on that note, I got some pretty cool announcements after the interview, so you're going to want to stick around. Author discoverability is on that list, so you're going to want to tune into that. Now today I am actually interviewing somebody I have talked to numerous times before. I've had him on the show a couple of times. We did a show together briefly. I'm talking to Jonny Andrews. He's the founder of Author Platform Rocket. You've heard me talk about this before. This is a kind of very serious, serious takers only kind of marketing for authors. And I've watched this guy build author careers. I've actually seen him take authors who, there's an investment. I mean, it's not altogether inexpensive, but he does a crazy amount of work trying to figure out ways to kind of hack the whole author marketing game. He does a great job. I used him for a while. I talked to him now. He kind of makes me dizzy. About to start doing some more stuff with him. This is I think you're going to get a lot out of this episode. Jonny is not shy about sharing his take on things, and it's very exciting to see what he's doing with Author Platform Rocket, and what they're building and where they're going with that. So you're going to want to check that out. And of course, you can reach out to Jonny. He's got some new stuff that we don't even get to in this interview, because this was pre-recorded well before he started doing some of what he's doing. So there's stuff you're going to want to know about. So you're going to want to reach out to him. I'm not going to delay you too long. I am going to say you definitely want to stick around after the show for the industry news. The stuff that I'm going to be talking about is going to be pretty cool. And some of it, if you are an author, it's going to benefit you directly. So you're going to want to be there for that. And we'll talk about other stuff too. I got lots going on. I am moving. Just to let you know, a little preview, I'm going to be moving. I did say last week in Brian Cohen's interview that this might be the final week I would do the show. I'm not sure that that's true just yet. I got a couple of weeks before we actually pack, we're packing now, but before we actually shut down and move. So it could get to be too difficult for me to do the show. If that is the case, I promise you I will be back. But if you notice a gap, that's why. So a little preview of what we'll be talking about after the interview with Jonny Andrews. So stick around. We'll do some industry news and other cool stuff. And until then, enjoy this very high energy, powerful, impactful interview with my good friend, Jonny Andrews. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in, sticking around past what was sure to be a lengthy intro. Because they always are, man. But I'm glad you're here, because I am talking to a very good friend of mine, somebody I connected with. Man, Jonny, it's been 2 or 3 years now, man, since you and I hooked up. You approached me about being on one of your original podcasts. That was a fateful moment, my friend. But I'm talking to Jonny Andrews. He's the founder of Author Platform Rocket, among other things. There's a podcast based on this thing. He is out there helping indie authors just blow up, just achieve the careers that they've dreamt of. So, Jonny, man, it's always a pleasure to have you on, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I love your show and the sultry sound of your voice. I think I say that every time you have me on, too.
It's contractual. I
It
have
is.
everyone who appears on the show has to comment on
that and the peeled green M&Ms.
That's right. Which I lovingly hand peel every single M&M. So, this is one of those rare. We're doing a do-over, and you know me, man. I always pull back the curtain and let everybody see what's going on. But we had already talked, and I'm going to save that, by the way, for some nice bonus material somewhere along the way. But you and I had already talked about it. We realized after the fact that we didn't really go through the topic we wanted to go through. We wanted to kind of bring you back to kind of give us a little bit of an update of what's going on with APR, because the last time you really had just launched it, last time I had you on the show. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, well, it had sort of gotten to the point where here's what's funny. I launched that without ever putting up a website. It was literally like, I'm always beaten to death, like the power of the email list. There it is right there. The only people that I was inviting to this program were people who were, authors who were subscribers
right
across the various ecosystems. And so it's one of those things that I like to call, testing the economic viability of an idea. And that's where, that's really where it was at the time. And yeah, no, it's definitely blossomed. I mean, tons of stuff is, like we were talking before, tons of stuff evolves every year, things changed. There's tons of crazy stuff going around, but the one constant is that the vast majority of authors are still really struggling to put together like a coherent marketing strategy, and It's just getting noisier, and so the need for that is getting to be pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, the thing about a marketing strategy that's really difficult for me, at least, I keep, there's this growing list. We were talking before the show. I use all the Apple products, right? I use Apple Notes for notes instead of, I've transitioned from Evernote, everyone. And I also use the Reminders app, and I have a growing list of sort of author business reminders, a checklist of things that I probably should do, right? And every day I add like 5 new things to that list. It's so overwhelming. I'm never going to get to any of it. So my author strategy suffers. My marketing strategy suffers. And that's why I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say. Although I typically only understand about a third of what you say. So
it happens. And sometimes I do too. I just make stuff up as I go, That's just the best way to rock things. But yeah, I figured, let's come on and kind of like figured the best way to sort of do this where we could deliver the most value to the folks who are going to watch this and listen and tune in their various ways is like kind of just go through pretty much like what's changed and just sort of really start there, because it's a different world than it was even, 18 months ago.
Right.
And, you have this a question I'm constantly asked, especially by like a lot of our agency level clients, is like, are bots a good idea? Like these Facebook chat bots?
Right.
Because the vast majority of what we do in terms of ad spend goes into Facebook. There's really 3 pillars of marketing that work for authors. And I mean, we'll totally talk about that thing, but this new thing, because email, a lot of folks see this over time is that there's a decline if you're not constantly doing upkeep. That's why author platform market is called what it is because that is the groundwork foundation for every author, regardless fiction, nonfiction. Are you doing business, entrepreneur stuff, personal development? Are you writing vampire romance? Like, science fiction, doesn't matter. It is the groundwork and the foundation of everything. And it will remain that way for quite some time. But now there's sort of this contender, this concept of the bot. And it's a very good question. It's like, can this help you? And the answer is absolutely, absolutely. But the problem is it's another learning curve. And yes, it totally works. It can work, but it's not a direct sale tool. For the most part, sometimes it is like once you're into a conversation, but it's kind of like everything else social media. It is a content delivery tool. It is an engagement tool. It is a relationship building tool, and it's a touch point tool. So you can sell, yes, but you don't want to immediately. And so
let's back up for just a second, man, because I want to make sure that people listening and watching understand what you mean by a bot, because you're talking about primarily like the Facebook Messenger bots.
Yeah, the ManyChat kind of things out there. They're inexpensive. It's an inexpensive software right now. Facebook, to my shock and surprise, gave it the green light, because typically that's the sort of thing that 5-10 years ago they would have shut that down in a heartbeat.
Right.
In fact, I think they did. A number of people in the internet marketing space years back had built these things, and Facebook was like, no, we're not doing it. But now they're kind of realizing that some automation needs to happen with that in order to be able to engage. And there's a lot of, there's tons of it. And I'm not going to make the show all about bots, because I'm still embracing the learning curve. I'm in the middle of a master class with an old mentor of mine that, I reconnected with them. I'm like, dude, let's go on this. And so, it's something that I'm going to be testing out. And so you'll definitely hear about it. I'll put it on the show, and that kind of thing.
To me, that just seems like it seems like the same thing as list building, though. It seems like you've got the exact same struggle, right, the exact same challenge. And then now,
without any of the ownership, that's the big.
Without any of the ownership, which is the thing that bugged me, which is why I haven't gone all in on mini.
Right. It is another communication channel that you can potentially use to reach your audience, but without the ownership. Same thing like where you're going to build that follow button, people clicking on Amazon. You can never really reach out to those people. There's zero ownership of that list, but it can be a helpful thing. If you're launching enough books, you have a big enough following, it can definitely make an impact, because Amazon's going to send those people an email saying, hey, but they're sending on your behalf. You know what I mean? So that's part of the problem. And so then there's really two more things that have kind of come into the sphere. And like I said, I wanted to start with bots because I know the least about it. I figured
get that out of the way. Yeah.
Just flush that out right away. So bots potentially, but I'll be back with more info on that. But then we have another one, the rise of AMS, and you and I, you introduced me to Brian Meeks, and
right.
I mean, straight up, the dude pretty much wrote what I would consider to be one of the best books on that subject. We use a lot of those same tactics, with the agency folks, and so when we're taking over those ads, there's a huge opportunity there. But welcome to your next job, because those things die out so fast. First of all, it takes them so freaking long to cook in the beginning anyway. There's been instances where we haven't even, they won't even go for like weeks. You can email support and all this stuff, and then suddenly you're getting like traction and things. And so I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that, because there's classes. Just buy his book. Go Brian Meeks. Just go get that. It's a great book. It's a book.
I interviewed Brian on this show. I'll try to include a link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely, yeah. Make it your affiliate link. No, but that's really. Here's the interesting thing, because it almost happened within the same week. Facebook ads started to, for some people, decline in results, and all of a sudden AMS started rising in results. And it was within this tiny little bubble of a couple of days, and it was like, oh, wow. And that's why, with the people that we run their ads, we did these pivots and shifts and learned how to do that and incorporated that into what we were doing for them, because sometimes, and this is just part of the experimentation process, sometimes AMS are going to be better for you, sometimes Facebook, but you need to know how to do both. And you also need to know, and this kind of segues into the mistakes, the myriad of mistakes that I keep seeing all the time, is AMS is a different animal than Facebook. It does not perform in any way, shape, or form at all,
right,
like Facebook ads. It's comparing apples to hairless cats in terms of functionality and performance, but you do need to learn both of them in order to kind of be that sort of person, if you're going to be that kind of author in this sort of world. And then the big one that we are pushing super heavy in our ecosystems is the rise of like this live thing. And I know, your author's going to hear, but I don't want to do live video. Guess what? If you're not doing live video, you're making a huge mistake. And here's what's happening. The marketplace, because essentially, as we've mentioned in the years previous since we've been talking, the industry's a button. Amazon turned it into that. It completely removed all of the barriers between the author and the reader on every level. So now there's almost no need to go and get published. I mean, there's definitely some reasons, but that's not what today's about. But for fiction authors, no, not really. And then especially if you're doing the nonfiction thing, this is what live does. Is it market's overly saturated. Right. Every single genre, every single niche out there is getting murdered with books, and nobody knows who's who and what's what. And so your job, your business, the business you are in as an author, regardless of what you're publishing, is to build your platform.
Right.
If you build that platform and then you market to those people, so you have this marketing coming in like this, and then you just sort of mix it up and get everybody to like you. And, you know, sometimes people exit because they decide you're not for them, and a lot of times they stay and they become lifelong fans and super buyers. But one thing that's happening right now, and we're implementing this on a lot of our fan pages where we have those book marketing sites where authors can, you know, buy space in the newsletter, and we promote that. We've opened up a complete thing where we're letting the authors do live. And so we'll host a giveaway with 20, maybe sometimes, you know, anywhere from like 15 to 20 authors. And all of them do either a takeover or a Facebook Live.
Right.
That kind of thing. And we've had some really big names that have come out to do this. In fact, we just did this. We did the Halloween one recently, and got some crazy big, traditionally published New York Times bestsellers to like come and do that. And I was like, what? And all we had to do was say, hey, would you mind? You know, we only reach like almost 500,000 of your biggest fans a week. Can you maybe? And they were like, uh-huh. So it wasn't a hard ask, but that took a long time to get to. That's been cooking since, that's been coming since 2011. Get that level of yes that quickly. But anyway, so it can happen to you too. But my point is, this live thing, what it does is it cuts through the noise, and it puts a face and it puts that personality with the individual, with the author, and you better connect. And so what we're able to do then is put these authors live on camera, just like, you know, we're doing, in front of, you know, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
And it really makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. And so these authors have been having a great time with it. And I would highly recommend using that in your own ecosystem once or twice a week. Just do something where you get out there and you engage with them. You can Google ideas on what to do, but we always try to do it wrapped in because, you know, I would hate to deviate from what I believe, which is build your email list, for the love of God. So we're always like building these, you know, we're always doing these giveaways that work with this stuff. And then obviously we scrub the crap out of them to make sure that, you know, you don't have any shenanigans going. Right. Nobody likes the shenanigans.
We gotta be shenanigan free.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shenanigan free.
So go ahead. I was going to ask, one of the, so what a sort of a, I don't know, not a best practice, I guess, but would you recommend, I've heard you talk about like Facebook Live and things like that. Is that sort of what you're talking about, getting out and doing some FaceTime with the readers? Yeah, that's a good idea to do. It really is. And I know that, and it's funny because if you if you go to the author platform rocket, you dig through it, you can see it's under the platform building or newsletter building thing. We actually have this, and I have a bunch of things that when we did these promos, I always like to, hey, tell us what you thought. I'll put you on the webpage as saying that everything we do is amazing. And it's hilarious because virtually all of our testimonials with this kind of thing are, oh my word, I was scared to freaking death, but I did it and it was awesome. Can I do it again? Right. That is almost universal. And these are some of the shyest people you'll ever meet. None of them had a stinking clue what they were doing before they did it. And then, I mean, we just had probably what I would say is the most viral one happen over this last weekend. Most of the time, they're to be seen maybe within a few days by about 2,000, 3,000 people, and then they just keep going. That's a really huge benefit to these things, is that they just keep cooking. Like, this is a long-term, super awesome way of doing this because Facebook is pushing this so hard right now. This will not always be the case. Keep in mind, but we've established, this is why I like to say make hay while the sun shines, because we've established that Facebook is the place to build this audience because you can move people from there into your subscriber base and then move them around wherever you need. Well, this is just one more way of doing that highly effectively. And do it while you're doing it, because you can then build audiences from these people and all sorts of stuff. But her Facebook Live within 24 hours was seen by 42,000 people. Wow. One author that we put him live through Isle of Vampire novels, and she's just a paranormal, I believe paranormal romance author. And you're just pushing this on your own Facebook channel and that sort of thing, right? Right. What we're doing is essentially letting authors rent space and market to them. So we have another group, and this one right now is completely experimental. But they said, hey, what if we did a recurring show every 2 weeks? And I'm like, great, cool, let's do it. And so we're just going to kind of monitor that and see how it goes. But that is a huge thing, is having a show, or the concept of a show, and doing it on a regular basis
just like these podcasts and stuff. It's awesome. And I know that sometimes takes a little bit of doing, but I cannot stress enough how effective it is. Obviously it's just one of those things, do what you do. Maybe you don't want to, that's fine. But especially if you're selling back-end products, if you're doing the nonfiction, the business development, entrepreneur, how to do this, that, or the other, whatever it is, how to train your dog not to pee on the rug, or who knows, that kind of stuff can really benefit from this. And it makes it difficult if you're, cranking with like 36 different, what do you call them, ghostwriters, and not really publishing as you are. That isn't probably going to work unless you hire some actress or actor to sort of pretend to be you, but that gets a little squirrely.
Right.
But as long as you show up as like an authentic human being, you can make as many mistakes as you want. And so what we're doing right now is putting together sort of a best practices that we're going to let folks download, and just, here you go. I'm also doing a book on this. Can you believe it?
Oh, wow. Finally.
I know. The guy who sells so many books is finally putting it out. Actually, it's funny because since 2008, I think I put out over 300 books, but I don't have any of them under my name. But now this might be the first authentic Jonny Andrews, holy crap, the dude did a book. It's just been so ironic that I'm the guy that does these things, but never did that. So.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the right choice, Jonny. Well, it's funny, actually. I don't know, because what I'm noticing now is a sort of shift, because there are so many books out there, and we kind of need shortcuts in a way. I'm just speaking from personal experience. I have a stack of books that I still need to chew through and learn new concepts, some of which have become out of date and obsolete in the time it's taken me to get to them. So it's almost, I don't know, I'm out combing YouTube and that sort of thing now. So that's exactly right. And there's a lot of places for books. Let me give you sort of a quick kind of example, because what's been happening since we sort of opened up the nonfiction wing of Author Platform Rocket is I've gotten probably almost daily a bunch of email from people going, hey, is this, are we right for this, or whatever it is. And I could kind of, this actually segues into what I wanted to talk about a lot of the mistakes that I see being made pretty consistently still out there, in spite of the volume of information that we've been publishing. It's tons of stuff. And that's not knowing the business that you're in, and especially how to use the book within that ecosystem. When it comes to a fiction author, it's write, publish, repeat. I mean, there's a book, read that book, make that your business model. Done. Right. Pretty much it. That is going to be your model for producing products. There is nothing wrong with that. That is, if you're doing 4 books a year, I think you're going to maintain, as long as you concentrate on the platform building, you can probably maintain some pretty good equilibrium out there in the world. Now let's take that into a different group of folks, which are those with a back-end business service, something like an info product or whatever it is on the back end. What I've been seeing is that they're not really understanding the model. That the point of the book is to enter, as Dan Kennedy once said, enter the conversation in the prospect's mind and move them from where they are to where they want to be through pretty much story-wrapped how-tos kind of thing. So you give them good info. And then the big problem that most folks have, and what I tend to hear is, well, if I do a book on what I do, then they'll know everything I know and they won't need me. And that's absolutely, completely not true. The human phenomena is to always seek more, because there's tons of really great info products about how to run a successful online business, but yet there's tons of people making loot coaching this too. So why is that the case? And it's because people, they're looking to make that progression with you. And so this book is this low barrier to entry. They kind of dip their pinky in the sauce and taste it and say, oh, this is cool. And then if you have the call to action, the book, it moves them along. And what's great is if you publish wide, and I actually strongly recommend this, to the nonfiction people, is, of course, you got your Steve Scotts, your SJ Scotts and stuff like that, that have very good business models, $45,000, $60,000 a month just off of publishing books. And that is great. Most people don't want to do that many books. He's doing every 6 weeks or something like that. I spoke to him. I don't remember his schedule, but it's pretty consistent. But with everybody else, if you publish wide, you can also then publish on your own site, which means you keep your buyer data. And so you can have these other channels, say you could be running some AMS
ads to your book, because now that they've opened that up to non-KU, you can, so for those of you who might not know, people who are exclusive to Amazon, you are the KU, Kindle Unlimited.
You're the KU.
KU, exactly. Get the
you are KU.
Armband and the facial tattoos.
You're like the Negan of the self-publishing world.
Exactly. But as nonfiction, you're probably not going to make scads of loot off of the page reads, because the books tend to be shorter. So you're not going to put together like some epic box set, multi-tome volume thing. It's not, you don't need to. But if you're going wide, and so you could use those distribution channels as lead, basically you're going to be pulling humans out of those places. And a little trick, want a trick?
I like tricks.
I'm going to tell you a trick. All right, so one of the big problems that folks have, and like I said, our agency people run into this constantly. It's like, well, I want to go wide, but how do I target people just on these platforms? Because you can take, like, say, the interest targeting that's working, or the lookalike audience targets that are working inside of Facebook, and then overlay that. Let's say you're trying to target iBooks. You overlay that just with people who are on iOS devices and like iBooks.
Right.
And amusingly enough, you're going to pay a ton of money for those clicks, but that's neither here nor there. But what you could start doing is your call to action within each one of those books published on each one of those platforms should have a unique pixel that when they click through that, because you typically give them some sort of video follow-up thing, or like the free video companion to the book or whatever it is, when they follow through and when they confirm their subscription to your newsletter, it fires a pixel, because now they're outside of the reading device, which is an enclosed ecosystem. Now they're outside of that reading device. It fires a pixel that identifies them. Then what you start doing is build audiences based off of just those things. And you end up having your Nook platform, your Kobo platform, your iBooks platform. It takes a long time to get there, depending on your sales volume, on each channel. But I can tell you, it's very worth it, because you get to, you season that pixel to learn who's who and what's what, and you get a lot better results from that. So that's kind of a little ninja tip on how to build that. It does work. It just, like I said, it takes a while. The other big, I think, big problem that I literally see this minutely, the expectations of what it means to be an author who's advertising. Even the big kids are jamming this up horrifically. And two things that have been proven finally, like literally proven, are being spoken openly about by some of the higher ups at Facebook, like over in Europe and Asia and whatnot. Not so much here, interestingly enough, but very quietly published, I suppose, on the interwebs, is you could watch some talks with these people where they talk about the fact that the click cost has literally 0.07% correlation to purchase. And so all of these authors are like, why are my clicks so expensive? I'm like, well, let's look at a 7-day ROI and a 30-day ROI. Look at that. You're making a 5-to-1 return on your investment.
Right.
If you had 10-cent clicks, you wouldn't be making nearly enough. That would not be working in that kind of way. So it's an important thing to understand, is your click cost has no correlation at all to whether or not people are downloading, buying, or reading. And it's a really, really brutal sort of reality. It's the same thing with AMS too. People are trying to look at these click costs. They're bidding really low to try to keep them cheap. A case in point, we have actually a couple of different authors who, we have some who are naturally getting cheap clicks. They have highly engaged audiences, and that does help. That's another reason to do Facebook Live, is it could reduce the cost of your advertising and increase the relevance of it. But the other reason is, some of these folks, they're doing fine. It's like 2.5, 3 times return on investment to ad spend. But we have some others who are doing 45 and even some at 60 cents a click, but they just hit the USA Today multiple times. So, their earnings are off the charts, but their clicks are high. But who cares? It's a vanity metric. It literally has no basis in any sort of financial reality whatsoever. So that's a huge one to be aware of, is that, yes, if you can get cheap costs and still get that outcome, that's great. But 99% of the time, that is not going to happen.
Right.
So a lot of authors are going to say, okay, and here's what really stinks, is because obviously Amazon hasn't opened up any sort of pixel fire, so you can't just bid for outcomes. Although I do have a trick for that too. We'll get to that. I do. We're testing it right now with some of our business owners.
That's what I like about you, Johnny. You got tricks for everything, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's similar to what I mentioned before. I call it pass-through cooking, and some of our folks are spending upwards of $1,000 a day just in Facebook, we're building sort of a situation where we're able to bid on the outcomes that are going to be happening throughout a series. And so as those pixels get fired, what we're going to be able to do is point the traffic at book 1, but optimize the conversion element for the end of book like 10 or something like that. It ends up being sort of this spear that we literally can drive directly through someone's entire series. And the problem with it is, you lose 30% to a double opt-in process anyway. So you're looking at like only 50% of your data is going to be accurate, but that's going to be the most vital 50% you're ever going to see. And then you look at the series as a whole and you're like, what's my ROI? So even though it's going to tell you that maybe your customer acquisition cost is like $10,
right?
They're buying 10 books or they're reading through 10 books. You're already earning profit. And that's only a reflection of probably less than 50% of the people who are doing it. So, I'd spend that money all day. Like if you're going to spend $10 and get 30 in return.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. I'm glad you brought up money though. Cause I mean, this is not, it's not.
Do I owe you some? I totally.
At this, dude, I think you owe me like a third of your business, honestly. I'm just
probably,
saying.
I think so.
But at this point, okay, it's not an inexpensive way to attract new readers. There's a pretty significant investment, and I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of the will-be authors. So this isn't necessarily the solution for the startup career, right?
Not what I just spent the past like 3-4 minutes talking about. No, you're right. First of all, that's a marketing technique that's probably way more advanced even for a lot of the people, because the only reason I say that is because this is all I do all day. Is like,
I should also point out that the stuff you're talking about, this is part of the stuff that you will do for the authors.
Right. This is the stuff that we do for our agency clients, things like that. Yeah.
If we pay in. If
you pay me enough money, like we'll do that. No,
man, I'm tempted.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying is that, we developed that program because there was such a need for it. And so many people are coming to it, but it's not something for a startup author. A startup author, especially in nonfiction, we have what I like to call the ecosystem audit package, because their biggest problem is they don't know what they're doing. They don't know who their audience is. And this is universal. This is people that have been in business for years. Like right now I'm working with a literally old friend of mine. I've known him since like 2006.
Right.
And, he's a phenomenal branding expert. The guy's just amazing. And he was literally, his book was marketing to 2 diametrically opposed humans. I'm like, okay, we have to figure out what is the end goal of this whole thing that you're doing. And it was to sell this, he had a much more expensive package at the end. And I'm like, okay, well, we have to then, who's going to buy that? Somebody that's in a job working on, trying to figure out how to become an entrepreneur, or are we talking to the entrepreneurs who are, get to that point in their business where they need to make a pivot because the pain and suffering is happening, and that's probably going to be a way more qualified individual. So when he creates his book, that's what he's doing. So I gave him the template that we use with these folks, which is a very systematic, like, who are you? Who do you serve? What are the problems? You lay it out. And then there's like 5 steps that you literally just talk this thing into being. And then which point we typically recommend throw it at our editor because he's used to those shenanigans.
Right.
And so they'll rip through that, make it pretty. Next thing you know, there's your book, with probably 2 or 3 back and forths. No big deal.
Right.
But yeah, if you're getting started, like for the new people, platform building, that is, I would say, the 2 things you need to do. And I've said this probably for years, daily writing ritual and daily platform building. If you do those 2 things, and then within the platform,
it's like, you and I are like, we're 2 halves. We're like Voltron, man. We're like Captain Planet. Right?
Absolutely.
Our powers combined. Daily writing ritual. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
The whole platform building side. That's you. And I used API to build my platform. I'm at around 30,000 strong on that mailing list, and I think you contributed probably 2/3 of that. So
awesome. I'm very glad.
Yeah. Now that was all aimed at sci-fi, so I got to start completely over.
You did make that. It's all good. No, man, I know. It's it's a hard thing to do because when you do that, it's very much a start over. But the other piece is, and we're working with a fellow right now in what I like to call the spelunking package,
right? Which
is he created a book for which there was no obvious market, and that's just a ridiculous problem. And I don't take on a lot of these things simply because I don't like to have the deck stacked against me. And
Right.
that's very much what this is. But there's no even subcategory in Amazon to cover this thing. And I'm like, well, it sounds kind of awesome.
Right.
But if you're in that situation, or if you're new and you've never done anything like this, and this gets back to expectations, I am not a wizard. I do not go, and then everything like is amazing. This
very disappointing, Johnny.
I know. Like I can't say this enough though. Like I'm just a dude who does a thing, and like, you know, now there's a team that does the thing so that I can, you know, overlord and that sort of stuff. But it's very much a process. Like if you're new at this, you have to sort of resign yourself to the fact that if you don't love what you're doing, you're probably not going to last, because it's 2 to 3 years in this. And the first year is going to be just cluster nation, because you're going to ram into walls. You have to learn the ins and outs. And typically you do that through making horrific mistakes. The only real advice there is try things, and try them long enough to know if they're going to work. Like, for example, with Facebook ads, like I was saying with clicks, they're vanity metrics. So you're going to run a series for like 7 days. You can do this at $5, at $10, whatever you can afford, that drives traffic to your book. And you have to wait and see what happens with your sales and your leads if you're, you know, exclusive and that kind of thing. If you can rise, great, you're in the right place. But you have to expect that there's going to be a 99% failure rate, especially if you're brand new. And you need to then turn those off, go with different targeting. And it's sometimes the best way to do that is, how's the relevance score? Is it 6 and above? Great, you might be in the right place. Don't worry too much about the clicks. You know, your click cost is going to be what it's going to be. And then every 7 days, you like, you know, is there something moving? That's just the first question. Not even, am I profitable yet? Because everybody thinks that they're going to make money when someone turns on an ad.
Right.
Just shy of 100% of the time, that doesn't work. And what's interesting about this is, and even the people who have sort of all band together and they're spending, you know, there's these groups of these authors that are typically shooting themselves into the top 100 and things like that on a pretty regular basis. Their business model, it's not a business model. It's a money maker that's working now, but they don't have true data to really even know if the ads are working. And so if you're in that situation and you're doing really well, you want to be around in the next couple of years, the way to do that is go to your back catalog, find a book that hasn't sold in maybe a year or two, depending on how long you've been doing it, I guess, and work the ads on that one on a manageable daily budget to find out what pockets of interest targeting and what kinds of ads are going to give you lift. And don't look for profitability immediately, you know, look for effect. You know, when you hit it, did it go bubble? Case in point, there was a paranormal romance author. I mean, that was the first genre that I even got into, man. That was like where I cut my teeth on this whole fiction thing. And it took 4.5 months just to find what combinations of ad graphics, call to actions, like everything was going to get it there. And so, you know, losing. All of a sudden, bam, we hit this pocket. We're like 10-1 ROI. And it was phenomenal. But it takes a minute. Like, even people that are good at this stuff, you have to expect it to be a while, because and the biggest problem is that Amazon doesn't give you conversion data.
Right.
You know, if I could put a pixel on a thank you page or an Amazon thing, that'd be a game changer. Are you kidding me? I could bid on sales all day. Yeah. But that's not how it works. You know, that they won't even, that you just can't. It doesn't really happen at all. So the ad expectations, I'm looking at my notes here for what I wanted to talk about, but that's, you know, really comes down to like the ad expectations. You know, you're what business you're really in. Most people have that completely incorrect. Like, what's the process flow, especially in nonfiction? I'm actually doing a live Readsy Facebook thing. So if you, I think you've talked to those guys a couple of times. Yeah. But that's what's interesting about that. I was chatting with Ricardo, I guess one of the founders of that, and he was kind of telling me, he's like, yeah, we definitely need someone to come on and talk marketing, because you know, they know their numbers when it comes to the editing, the you know, what do you call it, cover design, all this sort of stuff. But he's like, the marketing thing, it's like, it's weird. And I'm like, I can tell you exactly why. And it's because deer in headlights really does not encapsulate the kind of situation that's happening there. The people are so new and so completely unprepared for the business that they're getting into, that for example, I had a guy reach out to me recently who has 7 books. It seems they're mostly well-reviewed. It's hard to say. You're going to have to bounce them off an editor and see what he thinks of them. But they need a complete facelift. Like, there is no way these things are going to sell.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, they look awful. It's just terrible. Overhaul needs a complete facelift, a complete ecosystem revamp. So it's one of those situations, like, when you come to that, it's like, what do you even do at that point? You have to kind of tell them this. And so anyway, that's what I'm going to kind of go over on that Reedsy thing coming up this week is, what business are you really in? What are the things that you need in place to even win, to even potentially win? And then ultimately it kind of almost makes sense to like bring a second set of eyes in that's been down this road 38 gazillion times to be like, okay, this is where you're jamming up. Here's where the real money is. Here's what you can do as a back-end product kind of thing. And, kind of get you back on track if you were ever on track in the first place. Because to not do that, and you've seen this, I'm sure, in business, is to not have some sort of like guiding, like this is why we all talk, so it's because we help each other kind of stay focused and stay on course. It doesn't matter what level you're at. The shiny object syndrome, you and your pile of books right there, it's like, man, you know how many courses I buy every week that I haven't even through?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've got hundreds of courses, hundreds of books. I've got playlists on YouTube. I got all kinds of stuff, man. Podcasts I can't even catch up on.
Right, there's just not enough time, and it really comes down to, it's like, okay, who are you, who do you serve, and have somebody take you and help you with that, and say, this is where you are based on where you want to be. Let's map what that process looks like.
Right.
And that's really kind of the ultimate, I guess, message kind of thing is it doesn't have to be like my team or me or anybody like that, but get someone that actually knows what they're doing to help with that, or you could lose years.
Well, and you have essentially 3 tiers, right? You have and maybe you don't organize them this way, but this is the way I think of what you've got. You've got the sort of beginning, grow your subscriber database kind of thing, grow your mailing list thing. I think of that as your tier 1. That's where you start. You have your newsletter promotions. I think of that as tier 2. That's you've already established a mailing list, and now you want to get onto other people's mailing lists. That's the way I think of it. And then you've got your whole done for you services, which is that's the big one. That's when you've already built your platform. You've already got some income rolling in. You can afford to throw $2,000 to $3,000 a month at this. That seems like your top tier to me. Am I getting this right?
Somewhat. Because like, for example, the newsletter promotions, anybody could do that at any level. All you need is a good book that's well reviewed, that you're willing to either run for free or to discount, that's in a genre we service. That could be anybody at any time. But yeah, you're totally right with the software-based author platform Rocket, where it's like, you pick your genre, you pick how many people you want every month, and we're just going to disperse them to you like on a daily basis. That is absolutely a tier 1 kind of thing, because what then happens is you see a little bit more success, then there's like a higher level on the done for you kind of thing, where we're going to run traffic just for you through your Facebook accounts to your landing pages, split test those landing pages, optimize that stuff. And the reason you want to be doing something like this, like I said, even if it's not with someone like us, is if you're testing your landing pages, and I like leadpages.net. That's just what we do. We usually insist on that or something similar, that the author should have something like that can be tested, because we've taken these pages from as little as 9% up to 60% in conversion. Right. So if you think about what your cost per lead is on something like that, and once again, this is not an overnight process. It takes several months to do that. And so somebody that needs to be making $500,000 by next Thursday, it's probably not going to be a good candidate for that program, because that's more of a slow cooker. Same thing with the agency thing. If you come in and you have data that we can use, boom. We've had lots of times where we've been able to jump right in and get to where you are almost, within a couple of weeks, and then boom, start doing experiments and getting a little bit better, and then massaging the back catalog and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely, the highest thing, where if you bring on our team with the private thread, your project manager and all, you have your ads manager, your project manager, there's, business development coaching going on there. We literally handle all the graphics in the thing. We've had some folks even say, wow, I like your graphics better. Do my covers. That one. We every now and then, if you have really good books but look like hammered crap, no offense, but that's a lot of people are like that. I call it it's like a facelift program. Right. And so we've done that a couple of times. The outcome is now he's running ads. We overhauled, I think, 32 of his books, blurbs, covers, all of that kind of stuff, just to begin to make them marketable. And that did his site for him. And now he's selling more than in the past 90 days than he has ever at any point in his life. And he's been publishing, I want to say, for over 20 years. Like, the guy is just going crazy with this stuff. But it was because it was so visually repellent on every level that it's just, people are like, they didn't know what to think of it. And I'm like, that's a hard conversation to have.
Right.
Everyone thinks that, they have the coolest stuff. So sometimes that's necessary. But then for like the nonfiction people, I cannot recommend enough, doing the ecosystem, the audit program. Just, it's super in depth. It's a private webinar recorded that then comes out with, okay, here are the 4 spaces of your business. This is where you are. This is where you want to be. Here's all the stuff in the middle. Here's how your book works with that kind of thing. And you can actually see then where you're going and how it's going to play out, the steps involved in getting from point A to point B. So you walk away with a pretty hefty little document with that thing, plus the recording of the webinar. And currently I'm personally running those. So that's super fun. That's because I build a team around everything that I do. So I kind of try to CEO the business. It's there's definitely kind of a cradle to the grave kind of thing that we built. Because that's how it's changed. It went from not even having a website for almost 2 years to, I want to say maybe 6 months ago, I finally put the website up and said, okay, you can buy stuff from us now if you don't.
Right.
If you're not on the list. But by that time, we'd already had I think in the past couple of years, like 16,000 authors.
Yeah.
We've been able to help with this kind of stuff. And I was taking stock of it. And now that we're getting into nonfiction, working with more entrepreneurs, I've been doing this long enough now. I think we're close to almost 30,000 entrepreneurs that I've been able to help, either just with the courses that I put out or, doing the coaching thing or whatever it is. But I think I'd like to think that we're doing good for humanity in this market. But, I guess only time will tell. Maybe I'm the villain. I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? Everybody's the hero of their own story until the end.
Exactly. Until you're not.
All right, man. Well, we're coming up on the time, but is there anything else you want to throw in before we wrap things up?
Really, just it comes down to, no matter where you are in this space, like, don't quit.
Right.
I know that it's painful, especially, certain times of the year, in certain genres and certain spaces. But as long as you put one foot in front of the other, and as long as you have a coherent plan, and as long as you're doing writing ritual, daily marketing ritual, there's definitely going to be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Yeah. I like that message because you don't want to. The problem is we get discouraged, and it's easy to get discouraged, honestly, when you got guys like what's his name? Gosh, I'm going to forget the Joe Nesbo and his books. One of his books, The Snowman, is being made into a film. The lead character is named Harry Hole, man, and that I'm sitting here like, that dude's got a movie deal.
Right.
It depresses me.
Yeah, that happens a lot, and people are celebrating, like, the first month they've ever made $300. I was watching that in one of those chat groups in Facebook the other day, and I was like, this is cool, Yeah. It's literally just about putting that one foot in front of the other. And what sucks is, I sometimes get emails from people, who were going to buy a newsletter ad or something like that, and they're like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I decided to stop writing. I'm like, why? But the other day I had a really wonderful talk with a nice young lady, and I really tried to power home the message. I'm like, your books look amazing. You have like hundreds of people reviewing these things that are just absolutely excited about everything that you're doing. I'm like, this is the groundwork of a spectacular career. You just have to keep going. And she had had some very unfortunate medical, that it happens a lot of times, very unfortunately timed medical things that had put her back 2 years, so she felt that punch right in the gut. And I'm like, just get back on the horse as soon as you're able and keep doing it, because there's people here who really like what you're doing. And
yeah, exactly.
Don't stop. That's it.
Well, All right, man. Where can people find you online?
Well, check it out at authorplatformrocket.com and click around. I mean, there's a podcast there for you. I like to put out, whatever you need to know. You can also email agency@authorplatformrocket.com if you have questions. We have a pretty epic staff that I've been training for quite a while now that handles all this stuff. So, and just sometimes, it might even be me. You never know. I like hanging out in the support department and seeing kind of stuff going on so I can look for new products to sell you.
Right, exactly. There you go. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you stopping in yet again. I think this is actually maybe the fourth time you and I have had a conversation that was Wordslinger related. I think if you've been on 2 episodes, we've recorded 4 times.
That is true. I think you have a point there, and we'll use that other one as a bonus round.
That's right. Bonus round. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Jonny. I know I always do. All 4 times now. And if right now you're probably hearing the groovy theme music, you may dance in place at will. Stick around for some housekeeping and news and updates, that sort of thing, just after the break. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks again, Jonny.
Thank you.
All right, that was Jonny Andrews, of course, and man, it's always good to talk to Jonny. He and I, we chat every now and then. There are a few people who make me feel completely inadequate when it comes to marketing. Jonny he's like a fire hose, man. He will start talking to you about this stuff, and I consider myself a very intelligent man, and yet I sometimes walk away from those conversations feeling that. I got some work to do. Feeling like I got some studying to do. But anyway, that's why you form these relationships, right? You want to get to know people so that they can be a resource and they can help you, and you want to help them as much as possible as well, because that's how we build a society. That's how we build a community, this sort of self-sustaining community, man. That's what I love about the whole indie author thing. I interviewed Ben Hale this past week, and that interview is going to be a month or 2 from now before you hear that. But it was a great interview because he and I we share some views. He's also a very dynamic personality in his way. He's very reserved, but he's dynamic in that he just does so much. And it's just remarkable. I mean, but anyway, I don't want to sidetrack us on that, but I do want to get into industry news because there's some stuff here you're going to really find interesting. First up, this is a somewhat self-serving industry news, but Draft to Digital just announced their author pages and book tabs, D2D author pages and D2D book tabs. These are fantastic, and I'm very excited about them. We've had a great response from people as they've discovered this. You really need to check this out. Back when we started 2018, D2D announced that we were going to focus on beefing up our offerings at books2read.com, which is kind of our sister site, and that we were going to pay particular attention to basically resolving the problem of author discoverability. That's really what books2read.com is all about. It's a reader-centric site focused on readers, or it's going to grow into that. But it's all about connecting readers to authors. There are very few tools. There are very few tools out there that are aimed at this. We see a big gap there. And so the Books2Read site is going to host all these various tools for author discoverability, and we're starting with D2D author pages and D2D book tabs. These are sort of an offshoot of our universal book links, which are also hosted on books2read.com. But the author pages are your web presence online, your author presence online. If you don't already have an author website, you can actually use this as your author website if you like. It's got your author photo, your bio. It's got carousels of your books. If you have 1 book or 50 books or 1,000 books, you can have them all displaying on this page. They can be sorted by your they're automatically sorted by your series. And then get these cool little carousels that'll let people scroll through, see all your books. And you have what we call a hero book that is right next to your bio and everything that allows you to choose which book you want to display there. And there's a little promo tag that can go with it that can say, first in series, latest release, on sale now, free, all kinds of options there. And a little description, like a 40-word description to tell people a little bit about the book. So these are great tools. Now, the books themselves, they're built off of our universal book links. And you can create what we call book tabs. And the book tabs are essentially product pages for the books, much like you'd see at Amazon or Apple or elsewhere. They're this beautiful display of your book, its description, which you can change right there on that page. And it uses our universal book links so that when people click on that and click on the Buy Now button, they can choose their preferred storefront. And then if they set one as their default, from that point on, every time they click that Buy Now button, they just go straight to your product page on their favorite storefront, and they can buy the book. So it's a great way. You can use these things. You can use the author pages to build either a website if you don't have one, or you can use it as your book page on your website. So it's a great tool. Now, some cool things about author pages that I really dig. One, there's a way for people to sign up for your mailing list right there on the page. Actually, it'll send them to whatever your preferred mailing list sign up is. So if you use InstaFreebie or you use BookFunnel or you use some other form on your website, MailChimp form or something like that, you can put a link to it in this page, and readers can just click on through and join your mail site. They can also, if you don't have a sign up like that, they can sign up for your new release notifications, which is a Draft to Digital product, and they'll be alerted every time a new book comes out. So you get that. You can add your social media links. You can add your personal website. You can add all this information to this page. So it's all fairly customizable. So very cool. It's well designed, and it is just the start. We're going to be growing this as we go. So you're going to want to check that out. Look in the show notes of this episode. But if you go to bit.ly/WPC-145-D2D author pages, I know, but this is how I'm going to do this from now on. So to make things a little easier, bit.ly, of course, bit.ly, bit.ly is the URL shortener. And then I went and made it really long anyway, because I'm putting the episode number, WPC-145-D2D author pages. There you go. If you can't remember that, don't worry. You can find that in the show notes of this episode. Or go to draftdigital.com, go to the blog, and you'll find the blog post that links to right there. And it includes some video walkthroughs of how these things work. So you get to see me talking about it. Next up, a very non-Draft to Digital related topic. Digital manga overtakes print. Or is it manga? You decide. No matter how I pronounce this, I'm told that I'm wrong. So there's a conundrum for you. This is the first time that, and I'm going to stick with manga. That's how I was taught to pronounce it. And that's what I'm sticking with. This is the first time that digital manga has actually overtaken print in sales in the history of the format. Manga, of course, is, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically like comic books. These are Japanese-style art. There's Japanese animation, which is referred to as anime. This is like the print version of anime. If you haven't encountered these before, they're very popular the world over, but they are extremely popular in Japan. And traditionally, they're sold in little paperbacks that people can buy at the train stations and convenience stores and wherever these things are sold. And they're read, by the way, back to front. I understand. I don't read manga, so I don't have a lot of personal experience with it. I have looked through some, and they do look somewhat interesting. But now the point of this, though, the sales for manga were on the digital platform were up 17.2% from the previous year, versus print sales falling at 14.4% over the previous year. So digital sales up nearly 20%, print sales down nearly 15%. Now, if you happen to be somebody who studies markets, who looks for opportunities, that is an opportunity. That's what one looks like. So now Amazon, of course, is they're kind of in place where they could dominate this format. They acquired the rights to Comixology quite a while back, which is a digital comic book app. And they've been doing pretty well with that. So they're already poised to offer digital formats in this market. But there's plenty of room there, and I think that Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple, they've all got their opportunity to sort of grab a piece of this. I'll be interested to see what happens over the next couple of years. But we will see. I don't know for sure if anyone's going to jump on this. Maybe the numbers aren't right for them yet. But I personally see the growth there, and it's an underserved market. Somebody's going to figure out how to capitalize on that. So I thought that was interesting. Check that out, bit.ly/WPC-145-digital-manga. And, of course, in the show notes, you can find the link there. No room for pirates in Switzerland. Now, when you think of Switzerland, you think of pirates. And if you don't, you probably should, because the internet piracy is a huge deal in Switzerland, and it impacts a lot of authors worldwide. Now, the Swiss Federal Supreme Court is considering dialing back on its previous 2010 decision, which it basically barred anti-piracy groups from having the IP addresses of the file servers that were being used by internet pirates within their borders. If they change this, if they start allowing access to this, what it'll do is help cut back on intellectual property theft on a pretty much a global scale, because Switzerland has become something of a safe harbor for the internet pirates. Now, I always tell authors there's really very little reason for you to worry about internet piracy when it comes to your independently published book. And even if you're at a major level, it's really not that big a deal. I know, this is sacrilege. But the truth about this is the people who steal your book, they're going to steal it no matter what. They wouldn't have paid for it anyway. You're not losing sales. If people are out stealing your book and then they're talking about it, it's basically the same as giving your book away in exchange for them sharing and talking about it to other people. We do this as a marketing practice anyway. So there's slightly annoying to find out your book has been grabbed by some piracy group, but unless you are Neil Gaiman or Stephen King or someone along those lines, you're probably not getting a ton of theft in the first place. And the guys who are seeing some of their books pirated probably aren't seeing that much of an impact to their bottom line, despite any rumors you may hear. You can disagree with me on this. People have. I just firmly believe that piracy in this format isn't actually a problem. So please disagree with me. Cory Doctorow, by the way, gives all his books away. He's actually kind of gleeful when they show up on piracy sites. It is free advertising, honestly. To admittedly a large group of people who aren't going to buy your book, but the numbers are interesting because people who do pirate this stuff, a lot of them do go on to buy other items that you sell, other products you sell, or they buy the thing they stole when they're capable of doing it. So there you go. I mean, it's an interesting kind of landscape, but I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on it. Be sure to pop on over to wordslingerpodcast.com. You can find that story, by the way, bit.ly/WPC-145-Switzerland-piracy. I think what I'm going to do in future episodes is I'm going to remove all the dashes I can. Just to make this a little more streamlined. So that's it for this episode of the Wordslinger Podcast. I hope you got something really useful out of that. If you are a loyal listener, I thank you for that. Please go on to iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and anywhere fine podcasts are sold, and rate, rank, and review the Wordslinger Podcast. just to help people discover it. Discoverability works for podcasts as well as it does for books. So go and help people figure out that they want to be listening. Tell people why you listen to the show and what you get out of it. I do appreciate that. You can support the show, of course, by going and signing up for a Draft Digital account using my very special URL, draftdigital.com/wordslinger. And I get a little kickback. Actually, what I get is a year of royalty split from Draft Digital's cut of your royalties when you do that. So it makes a big difference. And it also means that the more of you who sign up, the more I want to support you and make sure you're making sales, because then I make money. You don't lose any money. Let me make that clear. You lose no money. I gain money from the Draft Digital cut of your sales. So go sign up. That helps me out. You can also check out Wordslinger Press. That's brand new on the wordslingerpodcast.com. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com. There's a little button there on the right-hand side. I say button. It's a little graphic. It's got a couple of covers on it. It says Wordslinger Press. If you click on that, I'm selling a couple of books there right now. That's going to grow as time goes by. And these are aimed primarily at people just kind of getting a start. But if you're trying to get a grip on how to build, grow, and nurture your author career, I'm going to start dropping some stuff there. These are generally very short, very easy books. I usually only charge a buck or two for them. And you can get them cheaper on the wordslingerpodcast.com than you're going to find them anywhere else. And they are available everywhere, so you can do what you got to do. You be you. We're going to be fine. But if you want to help support the show, that's one way you can do it. So that is it for this week's Wordslinger podcast. I'm so glad that we had this chance to hang out. Did mention this at the beginning of the episode, but my wife and I are packing and moving. So we're going to be we're moving back to Sugar Land, Texas. We lived there once before. We're currently living in Pearland. We had talked about moving to Denver. We've talked about all kinds of things. But what we've decided is it would be better to have a home base here, where we have family and friends that we can see often and support. Some folks aren't getting any younger, but others are just, we have close relationships and we don't want to strain that with distance. And we're traveling more now. So it's nice to have a nice little home base. So that's kind of the origin story of this. If you happen to live in the Texas area, the Sugar Land, Texas area, the Houston, Texas area, I should say, we should start hanging out more. I didn't get to do that much over the past few years because we were basically we were going to be leaving. It was getting tough to circle up with everybody. But now I'm thinking we're going to be here for quite a while, and I really kind of look forward to cultivating more local relationships. So if you happen to be in the area, let's talk about getting together. Let's hang out. And that's it. That's it for the Wordslinger podcast this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jonny Andrews. Be sure to, do all the fun stuff. Leave me some comments. Leave me some reviews. Let's just keep this party going. If I don't check back with you within the next couple of weeks, it means I'm packing and moving. But I will be back. So take care of yourselves out there. Hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. Hope you have a wonderful month ahead. God bless each of you. I'll see y'all next time.
Wordslinger.